because as always with these, you can't save all your preferences, so every time you start a new live stream you have to edit the things, because YouTube lets you do a couple of settings as presets but not all of them, which is always really frustrating. And it also means if you're out and don't have access to a PC, good luck changing some of those settings while you're doing a live stream, not just later on when it's useless, because you can't actually, do the thing where you're live when it's helpful to do them. Right. So if I do the live chat pop-out thing on the white screen as usual. Oh, shit, close the window. Oh, I think I can reopen that and it will still work. Oh, the live chat's still open, so hopefully that will be all right. So let me just get a window open again, and then I'll do a dashboard. Not a dashboard, a white screen even. There we go. Right, hopefully I get some comments. So live chat on there should be set to live chat, I think, on the other one. So a couple of my patches came today. So I've got the duty one from Stalker there because it's the right coloured body armour for duty stuff. There's a couple on the back, but don't know if you'll be able to see them. But got a radioactive trifoil one. The guy sent 2 duty patches, not one, so I put one on the back. And I've got a UK one on the back, so I've got an English one on the front, UK one on the back. Anyway, we will see if anybody comes on. Otherwise, it'll be quite a short stream. I feel quite tired today. I think it's just been because of where we've had a load of really hot days, so now it started cooling down a bit. I'm feeling like I want to get some sleep. Don't know if I'll be on tomorrow, by the way, because I've got quite a busy day tomorrow, so it's one of those ones I'd rather say I won't be on, and then if I'm on, it's a surprise, rather than like a bonus, rather than saying I'll definitely be on and then not have time to do a stream. Oh, it's actually, yeah, it's like some sort of... I was wondering what was in the top of this. Okay, so that should have been outside the thing. It's just folded into the vest, that's all. But yeah, it'd be good if we get some comments, people saying hello. So Jaro Roma says, can you please, I assume male video, you mean make video, about OR1 respirator, old Czechoslovakian civil defense? Don't think I've got one. Let's have a look. I'll Google it. OR1 respirator, Czechoslovakia. Is that a bit like the CM3? Let me go on Gas Mask Wiki and just look up all the masks from Czechoslovakia. Right, so you said OR1. That's not on the Gas Mask Wiki as a mask. There's a CO1 and a CO1R, which is a GOST one. I don't have one of those, but I've got a CM3. That just looks like an older version of the CM3. I already got a weirdo on there, so well done on getting on early, but goodbye. No, same. Just like I was saying to people, a bit tired. Right, Nick? So I don't know what these crowns mean next to people's names. I don't know if anybody else can see those or it's just me. But it said something about top fans. And it says Nick's got 25 XP, but Jarrow has got 50 XP. So I do not know what this is. This is evidently a new feature. And Dimitri's number 3 now on the things, but Saint hasn't been given a fan number. But some of the people commented for the first time on the stream, and then they've got things where other people haven't. So I don't know if it works properly. It's probably another broken YouTube feature. Yeah, that's East German one. If you're looking at the background one, that's just a plate carrier I've got. Okay, so it's the more you chat, it's just one of those things, is it, where it doesn't work consistently, because like I said, Saint sent a message before some other people and didn't get a badge. But yeah, so you're saying the mask is OR1, but like I said, there's nothing coming up for Czechoslovakia in the OR1. There's a CO1. Then most of them are VZs, other than the quite famous Cold War ones. Let me just search OR1 into the wiki without putting Czechoslovakia on it. And then it's coming up with Chinese masks. Yeah, I haven't seen it before, Nick, and I've not seen it on any of the comments when I've replied to people's comments. Yeah, that's East German, yeah, GDR, DDR, GDR. So not West Germany, the modern Germany, but old commie Germany. So yeah. So check, you are not escaping the war. That is verboten. You must enjoy the communism and the poverty. But yes, so for yeah, to answer you, Jarrow, the mask you're on about isn't coming up on the gas mask wiki or anything. So whether or not you're just translating it wrong or whatever, like I said, the one that sounds like the one you're on about is that OR one I was reading about, because that is very similar to a C3. It looks like CM3, as in, you know, like the older version. So that sounds to fit the bill, but it's not the right letters that you were saying. Anyway, I'll go off the made by Gamani Zubri, that one, the same ones that make the OM90. And that was based on the FM3. I think the FM3 might be a mask I've actually got somewhere in one of its tins. And apparently that was also a mask that was 42mm, so there was a 42 to 40mm converter for it as well, which is confusing. 30 minutes to an hour. Do I have any American helmets? No. I've got a Pascat vest. American helmets? No, not at all. I used to have a proper M1 and I sold that M1, but that wasn't even a US M1. It was one of the countries that made an M1 on license. And I've got a French rip-off of the M1, but I don't have any American helmets whatsoever because of the fact that they're stupidly expensive over here normally when they turn up for sale. And the one in Iraq would be a Pascat, wouldn't it? Or in the later variants of the Pascat, but no, I don't have one. No, I don't have an M45. They're really rare even in the US. I've got the M40, and I did have an M50 before I traded it. Warhammer 4K, I think you mean 40K. 4K would be only 2,000 years into the future. What are the helmets saying? Again, I don't really see the point of getting a retro helmet. Like we're saying, with those, if you really wanted a US style helmet, you can get some of the countries that did them under license, like I was saying, and they're almost exactly the same, just not made in the US. And they were at least real military helmets, just not used by the US. Because again, with a lot of armies, you do get like the US M1. Shows you MM1, it's right there. I'm not getting it down because it's on a mannequin. But yeah, you can see it right there. It's right behind me. It's right in frame. There's videos on it anyway. But yeah, because that's on the mannequin, there's no point me getting it off because it's difficult to put on And again, that MM1 isn't in pristine condition, so I'm not going to damage it by taking it off and on the mannequin. Yeah, I like the Vietnam ones there, with like the cigarette packets in and everything. Yeah, in the band and like Born to Kill or whatever on them. That sort of like, you know, like Sharpie marker looking stuff. Yeah, but no, I don't have any American helmets. Like I said, I've got quite a few helmets. But again, I've done videos on all those, but most of the time when I've got helmets, it's just when something turns up for cheap somewhere. You know, so I'm not going out specifically going, oh, I want a helmet from this country a lot of the time, unless it's the modern stuff that's actually useful. It's more where I've spotted something for sale and been like, that's not a bad price. I've got a Chinese replica coming of a British Mark II helmet, so when that arrives, I want to get it out and compare it to my real you know, like Mark II helmet and see how good a copy it is of it, you know, in terms of like the liner and everything else. M10M, not really. Like I said before, cheap filter masks I'm not a fan of. The US M17s are at least built well, so they're good in the sense that even though they're a cheap filter mask, they're at least built right. But the M10, the M10M, I don't know why, because they feel like they should be better masks than some of the other communist cheap filter masks. I just don't think they are. When I got one of those, Saint, the helmet itself was very good, but I absolutely hated the liner in it. And as in, without, you know, completely taking the liner out. Right, Sean, in the North Pole? You're seeing Santa. Yeah, all right, Rajiv as well. But yeah, it was... people are saying that's Rebirthy. I assume that's Rebirth. But people said that's actually quite good. Would you agree? Don't spoil it for anyone. I haven't seen any of the recent Jurassic Parks, but some people were saying it's the second best one after the original. So if that's true, then it's actually quite good. But yeah, what was I going to say regarding... no, you can't put a P3 in the M10. I suppose you could bodge one in, but you'd have to glue it in with rubber sealants. Say that again, sorry. So a load of people were saying it was the best one since sirens. Oh, you mean like police sirens and ambulance sirens? I thought you meant like air raid sirens. A lot of people were saying that new Jurassic Park is the best one since the original. So yeah, that's kind of good if it is. But like I said, I'm not going to bother going to the cinema to see it. I want to see 28 months or years later, whatever it was, at the cinema. But annoyingly, a load of the people I was going with, I don't think are bothering to go now. So yeah, I'm probably not going to end up seeing that until it's on a streaming service. Because again, like I said, even when I had my car, there wasn't that many local cinemas. You'd still have to drive quite a while to get to a cinema. Thank you, For Real. I'm glad you like it. There's reviews out for it, Saint, so I think it's been at least a week or two since the premiere. So I assume it is all out in normal cinemas. Again, I've tried to avoid spoilers of it. Like, I saw one newspapery type review that I didn't read, but I saw they gave it like 4 or 5 stars. And that they'd given like good reviews to, but I've seen already like reactionary YouTubers saying it's shit, probably to get you to click the video to give them views. But like I said, I've avoided spoilers. You can have lots of knives in the UK, but if you mean like the switchblades that are spring assisted, they're totally banned for some reason. But I heard that's the same actually in some US states; those are banned. But you can have a knife that's over 3 inches. If you just mean a knife over 3 inches, if you're out of the house, you just have a reason to have it on you. You won't even see police in a lot of places anymore, so it's not like they're going to check. Do you like the L1? Again, it's quite a decent thick rubber suit. It's just obviously they're not going to be nice in warm weather. They want people to be they're actually trying to recruit again now, aren't they, for the Navy, the Air Force and everything, because after all the years of cutting it, they've realized with Russia being a dickhead that they actually need armed forces. Anyway, what comment did I miss that was actually relevant? But yeah, the Pasket one, Saint, I was on about. Yeah, I like the helmet itself. I hated the liner, and it was a lot of effort to replace the liner, so I never bothered. Yeah, I've got deact grenades. I've done videos on them. Again, with YouTube policy, I probably can't hold one up and show it on camera. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Fori. All the NBC suits I really like are the one-piece ones because of the fact that, yeah, you don't have a bit which can break apart in the middle. And, yeah, I think it's faster to get into one suit than, you know, the two parts. Yeah, again, Sean, it's a bit of a problem, isn't it? But, yeah, yeah, so what you could do, Saint, is keep buying them until you get one like mine with a proper pin thing on it. Because it's probably with deactivating them, they're probably, as long as there's no real explosives in, they probably don't have to do much. So again, yeah, you could just luck out until you find one where all the bits, you get all the bits and then screw the one with the active fuse onto the regular thing. Again, we won't say anything dodgy on YouTube, but again, it's not like manufacturing an explosive device is even easier than somebody making you know, a deac gun work again kind of thing. But I won't say any more on a stream like this in case YouTube gets the wrong ideas or old Bill gets I've done some military MREs on videos before. Doomguy666 says something in Cyrillic. I'll translate it. But in terms of what do you call it? Oh, Chernobyl veterans join the ranks of duty. Yeah, slightly off frame, but yes, there you go. Save the world from the expanding zone. But yes, regardless, what was I saying? I've got some I want to do a video on. Next week, I should have a lot more time to do videos. So I'll definitely get some of them filmed, the MRE ones, because I'll probably just have some of those as like dinner on some of the nights. So I'll do a video at the same time. What shall I company? German MREs or the MREs from the country they were in that they were being issued? Thank you, Matt. If it's Matt, I can't really see from the funny font. A survey meter basically is a Geiger counter, or do you mean an ionization chamber sort of survey meter? Because survey meter just means for taking a survey. Geiger counters are like a thing, ionization chambers a thing. You also get scintillators, spectrometers, whatever else. If you're buying, you specifically want to buy an old one and not just a modern thing that works better. Say you're in the US or whatever, CDV 700, because it will actually click and you actually get the needle to move with like very low radioactivity items. If you get a CDV 715 or a 720, you're going to basically need X-rays or really, really strong radioactive sources to move the needles. FM14, what's that? I know what an FM12 is. I don't know what an FM14 is. Yeah, speaking about energy drinks, I ought to drink more of this because I feel tired. I've just got the Euro Shopper ones. Whatever they were. Yeah, Euro Shopper, where I bought shitloads of these in bulk a while ago. Is that one of the really modern ones? Because, or do you mean the MF14? Because if you mean the MF14, I know the one you're on about. The panoramic one that I've said's all right. But I don't know what an FM14 is. But they do like FMJs, but then they're a different series of masks. No, they're not Shadow Company. Modern Chinese masks are actually genuinely really good. Unless you're buying really, really shitty like civilian industry ones. Their current military ones are basically clones of... they're less than 50p if you buy them in bulk. Don't taste like petrol. I'm not really drunk petrol to try it. But I genuinely don't like the taste of Monster and some of them. But you can get the modern Chinese military masks on AliExpress anyway. Again, AliExpress has shitloads of masks on it. AliExpress is like saying all the masks on eBay are bad or all the masks on Amazon are bad. Completely depends what you're buying. No, don't have an MC1. Got the MC3 in it. Oh, do you mean the Polish MC1 then? Yeah, sorry. Because we were on about the CM3 earlier. Don't have it handy to show in the video stream. But yeah, the panoramic MF14, yeah, that's the one. And again, you can buy that on AliExpress and it's good. Wow, it's pretty average. It'll work. Some of the filters on AliExpress, again, Satan, you have to know what you're buying with the filters. So it's another one of those things of, if you wanted links to specific filters, oh, and you don't have to install AliExpress either. You can just use it on the on your PC. You don't have to get their app. But yeah, there are some filters which are like the proper Chinese industrial ones, which are fine. But in terms of like some of the really shit filters on there are some really shit ones. What do you mean compared to the filter directly on the mask? Back in the day, they did that because the filters used to be bigger because they weren't as efficient. So that was so the weight of it wasn't on your face pulling away from the mask. In modern day usage, that you don't really have any need for a hose unless you're using a PAPR or like a rebreather or whatever. In terms of actual, like normal masks and everything, the filter on the mask is probably just better. Because the issue is with a hose is if you get a rip in the hose, then your entire mask is compromised. Yeah, the pewter one, I've done videos on before, Shadow Company. Yeah, again, Saint, I agree with you that like some of the big Scott filters that do like multiple gases and some of the other filters I've seen, you might still want on a hose if you've got one that big. But yeah, with modern military filters, they're pretty small. That they're all a pretty standard size, essentially, like the size an S10 filter is. Because again, that they can get a decent particulate layer in the front of that and enough charcoal that's embedded with whatever, impregnated with whatever to work against most gases for several hours. So when you say Polish GP5, do you mean the the SZM41 or whatever it's called, the Polish version, this one? I'm not showing any pew-pews on the stream, Shadow Company. I don't know why you're suddenly on about it, because I've said before loads of times when people say, can you get one out? Yeah, that's not actually a GP5, it's the military mask, because it's got the bigger thing. I don't think Poland ever had a GP5. They had the MC1 and everything. So yeah, so this is actually a military mask, this one. Did it come with the big EO14 style canister? Yeah, especially modern Polish quality sake. Like we said before, some of the communist stuff is a bit meh. I mean, that one is actually not bad. Their GP5 things, like people were saying, shum helmet masks, are basically the same standards as the Russian ones, just different colours, and they're white rather than grey, and it's got that like nice shiny zinc filter intake bit on it rather than having like the painted metal like the Soviet ones have. I've done streams years ago when they changed. All right, Justin Yellowhair. I've done streams. Modern filter in 2003. Still fairly modern. But yeah, in terms of like years ago when they first made that rule, because it hadn't been a rule before that, and I could show guns on live streams and that. I had a few where the streams got taken down, and after that I didn't fucking risk it again. And that was probably before they were even as strict on it as they are now. So it's one of those things where I just don't do it now. But yeah, like I said, it's not worth risking your channel for it. Well, how do they differ helmet productions? Is it like more bits have to be sawn off and just welded shut or what? Which is kind of weird, seeing as in Canada it's easier to get an actual rifle. But yeah, like I've said before, the funny thing with the Polish MP5 is it's a licensed copy of that French ARFA, but unlike the French ARFAs, they're still somewhat good, even like decades on. Like, you might get a bit of discolouring to them and whatever, but they're not completely falling apart like the French ones, which are made from that really low quality rubber. Oh, we will make them out of the rubbery plastic that dries out and the mask goes solid and it falls apart. It crumbles like the cheese. Again, I don't know why some people get the ranking and others don't. Because I don't think you have to be a channel member, do you, to get the ranking? Oh, okay, if I click the ranking thing now, every single person that's commented in the stream mostly shows up, but Saint doesn't for some reason, which is weird, because Saint's left loads of comments in the stream and he doesn't show up either. So again, this top fans thing is a bit broken. I don't know if you also have to be publicly subscribed to a channel for it to show up or not. I don't know, but other than the mag being not being able to be removed, that's the same as the UK ones. Well, some of the UK ones don't have welded bolts, do they? But some do. Again, that's like one of those things. I think it depends on the gun and who deactivated it, how they do it. The plugged up barrels are a thing, although in the UK they normally don't plug them up right at the ends. They normally cut them and then like weld a rod inside them. For you, what was that? You say you want to buy what? So do you want to buy a Shims or a GP5M? Well, the sign, it's not a snork sign, it's just a gas mask sign. I suppose it could be dangers snorks lurking about, but I can't remember who it was. It might have been one of my friends said his grandma or aunt used to do it, but apparently somebody, like, you know, I vaguely know, used to have a massive old shell casing without the head on it that they used to use as an umbrella stand, you know, like one of the shell casings that was like at least 3 foot high sort of thing. You know, like maybe it was a naval gun shell casing, I don't know, but probably bigger than the standard field gun from like World War II period. Oh, I see, yes. Yeah, although so yeah, every bolt's welded, because like I said, with mine helmet, some of the bolts move on various guns, others don't. Every AK platform I've got has got a welded bolt for some reason, even though on like other you know, various assault rifles and whatever, the bolts move even if they're not connected to anything inside. You know, where they've cut away some of the bits the bolt would connect to, but you can still rack the bolt, and some of them they've then put a spring in to make it feel like there's some feedback to the bolt. Yeah, I'm still around, Roger. Like I said, next week I'm hoping I've got a lot of spare time to get some videos filmed. If you're wearing a mask without the filter, it's absolutely fine, even with a GP5 or whatever. You can still breathe through it, and there's nothing dangerous unless there's something dangerous in the air. Also, I've got some World War II helmets we used by fire brigades. The one I've got is actually a post-war one because it's made from a different type of steel or whatever, but you also see some just painted white and used by fire brigades. All right, Rich? But anyway, what was that question about a GP5M or a Shims? I don't know if the latest reply has turned up for that. What Fourier was saying. Yeah, the Schmidt-Rubin out of the obsolete guns I have is definitely the coolest, as in it's a decent bolt action, as in like the Mannlicher I've got is a really shitty bolt action. It's still cool that you can own it, but as in like it has a really annoying clip system rather than the proper magazine, and it's an awful straight pull bolt, whereas the Schmidt-Rubin's got a rotating bolt. It's straight pull at the user's end, but it's got a rotating bolt like the type would later be used on the Garand and the M1 carbine. So it's got a really nice, like, it's a really smooth in the user's end, like push and pull backwards, but the bolt is actually rotating as you do it. GP5Ms, so again, if you can't, I don't know what country you're in for real, so that will depend on how easily you can or can't find them for sale. They're also known as the PMG2. So basically, it's literally a GP5 style face piece. In the front, it's got the voice diaphragm that the Shims uses and the MM1. It's just kind of cut into the mask and stuck there. in the face piece, but it doesn't screw the mask up or anything. It's just there, and it makes it better. Weirdly, it has ear holes in it, which okay. Am I celebrating 4th of July? I'm not American. All right, hype. Yeah, I've got my duty patch now. For this, I've also got you see that at the back, a radioactive one, the UK one. So I've got the England on the front, and another duty patch. So yeah, I've ordered a thing that lets you stick more Velcro bits onto a molly thing. So if I want to have all the patches on the front or whatever, I can do. All right, see you, Saint. But yeah, Saint, that's what I said. That's the weird thing is I've got some other rotating bolt deacs where some of the bolt works. If we go back to the deac thing, but yeah, regarding the Schmidt-Rubens bolt, although with an AK bolt, the bolt is just to the side, isn't it? And then it's on the spring kind of gas piston buffer bit. Anyway, eBay. Let me see if I can find a PMG2, but I need to know what country that guy's in to know if they ship to them. Yeah, this one's pretty good. I've got another level 4 plate coming for the back because I've got a level 4 plate in the front here. But the back plate, I've just got a cheap Chinese level 3, and it's not even a level 3 plate. Like, you know, like a level 2A, but as a plate rather than soft Kevlar that I've just put in front of the Kevlar. But yeah, when my other ceramic, not ceramic, it's an ultra high molecular weight polyethylene plate comes, I'll either, you know, swap the front one to the back or vice versa. But that way, at least it will be level 4 front and back, this vest, as opposed to being, you know, level 4 from the front and then not rifle rated from the back. Yeah, that was because, like I got the duty patch from Stalker, I wanted to get some more Stalker patches, but this was the only ones that were at good prices. And then the, or like that were currently shipping, but because the loaners and Stalkers have the trifoil, it was easy just to get a generic trifoil patch rather than... Have I tried them? I've got some Diak AKs. I've sadly never shot a real AK. I've shot some other guns, but not an AK. But like I said, AKs are... I definitely like to shoot them, like along with ARs, but obviously it's a case of being in the UK. You'd have to go to a range that's kind of licensed to have one or whatever. As in, it's more like the army range days when you're allowed in, where they sometimes do money for charity that you get to shoot something like an AK. Saying that, where the MOD is training Ukrainian troops, they sometimes do in various bits of the UK, and they were doing that near us. They're training them on AKs as well as Western rifles because I guess the fact that if when they go back to Ukraine, they might be given an AK-74 or an AKM or whatever. So they're actually training them on both platforms. So that's the funny thing is I think Britain had to buy a shitload of AKs from some old Warsaw Pact countries. So when they were doing the training programs for them, they could have like an AK for every soldier as well as an L85 or whatever. So they could get used to like 5.56 and AK platforms. The Browning automatic rifle, that bar, it might have been good in 1918, but it was pretty fucking heavy and obsolete by World War II, wasn't it? From what I understand. Never held one or whatever. But if I remember right, it's basically the same weight and everything as a Bren gun, but with worse ergonomics, isn't it? And again, I've got a Bren gun over there. And again, shouldering as a one person a Bren gun isn't very fun. So yeah, I think the bar's in that kind of thing where it's way too heavy to be a decent automatic rifle, and it basically should be in the LMG role like a Bren, but it wasn't. Yeah, again, AKs and ARs are both great. I mean, if I got really funny about guns, again, like I said, I'd have to have training with them to know if they are actually good, not just like the video game and film appeal of them. But some of the guns I really like are just some of the weird guns like the SIG 550, and was it South Korea that did like a weird AK AR hybrid rifle? But there's been a couple of countries that have done like weird AK kind of hybrid rifles that aren't a true AK, nor are they a true AR. You know, and when I say AR, I mean Armalite, not automatic rifle or whatever. But there are quite a few like guns that where countries have tried that sort of stuff. Again, the Swiss SIG 550 series I really like, as in it had the folding stock. It was really well built according to all the gun channels that have done videos on it. You know, this was back when SIG made good stuff, or was SIG Swiss, you know, SIG Swiss German, not SIG US. Where, you know, SIG at that point meant it was a high quality gun. Like, I've got a SIG right there, which I can't show you on stream. I suppose I could put the bipod out and just wave the bipod slightly into frame. That's from the Sturmgewehr 57. And that thing is unergonomic as shit, but it's a really interesting gun historically. Because it's the exact same length as a FAL, and it kind of was what the Swiss wanted as a FAL, but it's more like an FG42, where it's kind of like an LMG, automatic rifle, battle rifle, everything all rolled into one. So it ends up being this kind of jack-of-all-trades gun, which is really awful ergonomically. But again, because the Swiss have been using it in static defensive positions for the most part, it's probably really good for that. But it is very heavy and bulky compared to most, like a G3 or a FAL. Yeah, Thompsons have that weird appeal as well, where Thompsons, most people consider them really good guns until they've apparently ever used a Thompson. And then they're considered really shit. Apparently the main problem with the Thompson is just they weigh a lot. And they've got a really weird stock, which isn't in line for like doing a cheek weld. So where with most obviously modern guns, and again, annoyingly, I could just get a gun and show you what I'm on about here, but I can't because of YouTube policy. With most modern guns, obviously you cheek weld onto the stock to look down the iron sights like that. You can't see I'm doing that with my other arm, but you sort of do that. With a Thompson, you can't cheek weld on it, so you can push it into your shoulder, but then your head would be further up. Or what you see a lot of people shoot, how they classically shot Thompsons, is to tuck the stock under your arm. Yeah, so they're heavy. They've still got a lot of recoil, and you can't get a good sight picture on them in terms of a cheek weld. So yeah, it's one of those guns that obviously it was really cool for when it came out, but you can see why, you know, like Britain wanted to make the Sten gun for cheap rather than importing Thompsons from the US, and like why every country basically said we don't want a Thompson. And again, as much as the M3 grease gun looks shit to most people compared to the Thompson, it's probably a better gun to actually have on you. Two types you can do that for real. The MM1 behind me and the Shums, the SHMS. Yeah, to be honest, 9mm versus 45 ACP is one of those arguments that's going to get people bitching non-stop if you start that one. Personally, I think 9mm for most of the context is better, just because in general, if you have a magazine of a similar size, you can get a couple more rounds of 9mm into it. But in all honesty, there's not much difference between a 9mm and 45 in terms of effective range and power. Again, Riffraff, like I said, I visually really like the Thompson. It is one of those guns of the period where they actually look really well made and everything. But yeah, the Sten, again, the Sten is not meant to look nice or whatever. The Sten was, oh shit, we need shitloads of guns really fast. Again, like I said, the Thompson for a lot of people is like what you call a gangster gun. Like, as much as there were various Tommy guns, Thompsons, whatever, and I know they were used in World War II, obviously, the ones that, like, in most pop culture, I think outside of America where they're more famous, is like the US gangsters. Like, it always makes you think of Al Capone or Derringer or Deringer, whatever his name was. You know, like all of that sort of, like, you know, bootlegging sort of what's the name of the period? I'm going to just put this bayonet onto the Sturmgewehr while it's here. Prohibition. There we go. Prohibition. That sort of period is what I think of when I think of Thompsons. Is that gone on properly? Normally you get a click when you put that on there. I didn't hear the click. There we go. But yeah, in terms of World War II SMGs, supposedly the best ones were actually one of the Italian Beretta SMGs was apparently stupidly good. And like the main kind of really high produced SMG of the war was the PPS-43. Not the PPSH, the PPS-43. Because the PPS-43 basically had all the quality of life features that would come quite common in later guns, you know, folding stock, you know, like good reliability, very cheap to make and fast to make. What did you ask about the PMG? I can't remember what you asked about the PMG. I don't know at all if the Thompsons in World War II had the drums on. But I know for a lot of guns anyway in World War II, the ones that started off with drum mags, they quickly found drum mags are too complicated, like unreliable and expensive and whatever to use. So you'll see a lot of guns in World War II SMGs that started off with the drums, and then basically sticks became the main mags. And Hypes just the sticks. But yeah, I know with at least a load of like the British guns, like the Bren gun actually had drum mags for it, which a lot of people don't know. But you only ever see the Brens with the big 30 or 32 round mags, whatever they are, sticking out the top, because the drum mags are mostly unreliable and very complicated and unreliable, expensive to make. So other than some pictures you see now and again of World War II soldiers with the Bren with the huge drum mags, they were barely ever issued. Uzi versus a Thompson. Uzi easily, because it's a more modern, lightweight SMG compared to that. Out of the history of like SMGs, when you get into the Cold War period, I think the Sterling is my favorite from like early Cold War, because it's a Sten gun but actually quite good. And then probably the MP5, because the MP5 is like the one that became the high quality good end SMG, and there's a reason everybody went with that. Uzis don't have a short range. Again, you're on about submachine guns. All of them have the effective range of maybe 200 meters if you're lucky. Again, submachine guns are literally a sub. That's why they're a pistol caliber gun. Arguing about the range of something like a Thompson versus an Uzi is kind of stupid. All of them are submachine guns. Again, I know, like, if you, in theory, have a sub that's a really small one with a barrel, no barrel on it, it's going to be a shorter range than a full-length submachine gun. But all of them are for the roles of closer range and rifle combat. And again, that's why assault rifles replaced all of them in most nations. The Uzi is 9mm, not 45. Unless you're on about something else now. The US actually went to 9mm things in Vietnam, because they had the Smith & Wesson rip-off of the Carl Gustav in the Carl Gustav K45, whatever it is, in Vietnam. It can be, but it's normally not. It's normally a 9mm gun. Yeah, again, this is like the M1 carbine thing. Even the M1 carbine struggled, I think, over 200 yards, 200 meters. It was one of those things that was really good as a close-up gun. But yeah, again, it was, you basically wanted just machine guns and rifles. And when I say machine guns, I mean proper machine guns, not SMGs. Again, like I was saying, this is why assault rifles in most modern armies replace the roles of so many different guns. It sounds, Shadow Company, more like you're doing a video game stats thing, because again, in real life, there's a reason most nations went with assault rifles. It's because logistically, you want something that is good for most roles, so you don't have loads of production lines and loads of different ammunition types. From what I understand, even the Chris Vector still recoils. It's probably got a dampened recoil, but again, I don't think there's any gun that doesn't recoil unless it's properly like tripod mounted with a really heavy thing. But yeah, in reality, I think you'll probably find that, yeah, there's a reason everybody went to just assault rifles, DMRs. Yeah, so it's a counterweight recoil kind of thing. But yeah, I suppose recoil can never be actually completely gotten rid of it, because ridden with, because that would be breaking the laws of physics. What goes up must come down. What's the other thing? The proper term is something of action has an equal and opposite reaction, isn't it? Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. It's that kind of thing. You can't actually get rid of recoil entirely, because you can't make energy magically disappear. Yeah, I don't know if more countries don't do this, because I know SMGs are still used for specialist roles, and like a lot of police use SMGs rather than assault rifles, because then you don't have to worry about over penetration as much for like counter-terror stuff and whatever else. But what I don't understand with more SMGs is, like, where some guns in World War II had different weight bolts. Again, it might depend on the type of action it uses. You know, like where the MG42 famously had a heavy, heavier bolt to retard the fire rate, and that's where the term retard should actually be used. Retard the fire rate. It seems silly more guns don't do that, because again, with the MG42, apparently the most popular with soldiers configuration of it was the slowest rate of fire one, because of the fact you didn't waste your ammo as quickly, you didn't overheat the barrels as quickly, and you could fire it in shorter, more accurate bursts. What are you on about, all of the UK or me specifically? The only guns I had taken were where I had to surrender some blank guns because of a shitty law that changed. If you mean the UK, all of the gun bans that happened were the 80s and 90s, and there's still guns over here. It's just they're a lot more restricted on who can have them, and you know, like mag size isn't even a thing with the UK stuff. It's like rate of fire and all that sort of stuff. RPK 74 though is an automatic rifle / light machine gun. Light machine guns tend to have big mags. Although, again, with a lot of machine guns, they're belt fed. Again, the RPK is one of those weird guns I don't really know why it exists, in the sense that I can see why you would make them, as in the Soviets made them, because they probably didn't need much more additional tooling to make them. But again, the RPK kind of seems a bit weird, where you can't replace the barrel on the fly like you can with something like a Bren gun or lots of other LMGs, ARs. I don't even know what that is, vibe. What are you on about, Black Metal? Over penetration is not going to be a thing that's shooting a bullet with a lot less velocity. I mean, it will depend on the tip you're using, but if... Oh, I'll just get rid of the person that's being weird. But yeah, if you're on about pistol rounds won't pen through walls and stuff like that anywhere near as easily as AR rounds. 5.56, 7.62 by 51, 7.62 by 39, whatever. That's kind of the reason lots of people like shotguns and pistol caliber rounds for stuff that, you know, for stuff like policing is literally the reason that you're not going to shoot them through a whole crowd of people. Again, pistol rounds, what about them? Again, like I've just said, it depends completely on the round tip you're using on an AR, like with a pistol thing. Like, obviously, hollow point is different than a jacketed hollow point or a steel core round. But in general, something with more energy going into it is more likely to over-penetrate. Same, like, you know, same reason that I suppose a 2.2 LR would be even better if you didn't want it over-penning, but that would be kind of crazy giving cops 2.2 LRs. Although, thinking about that, there is that, Forgotten Weapons has done a video on it. There's that weird US submachine gun in 22 LR. Is it the American 180? Something like that it's called. And that's a weird thing. It's a Thompson-looking 22 LR submachine gun that has a top-fed magazine, top-fed drum mag. I think it was specifically for gunning down prisoners, if I remember right, when I watched the Forgotten Weapons video on it. Now, that's fucking cool, but yeah, it's a bit of a weird concept somebody came up with. Yeah, but how about it in what way? You're not asking it as a proper question. Yeah, crowd, there you go. Young Dove says, for crowd control in prisons, yeah. Like I said, I thought that was what I remembered it being. PMG2 is both military and civilian for real. If it's in the military, it's called a PMG2. If it's for civilians, it's called the GP5M. But it's exactly the same mask. It's just one of those things, it's two different things depending on who it's issued to. Isn't that a notoriously shit shotgun, the Striker 12? I assume 5x8 by 21mm is a bit like a 5.7 equivalent, is it? I suppose it's also a bit like a Tocker if I'm doing that. So assuming it's higher velocity, more penetration for the military variant, and 9mm for the police because it's not going to overpen as much. I know the gun you're on about, Shadow Company, but isn't that the awful one? like I said, in reality, it wasn't that a completely awful failed gun. Yeah, and that was exactly the point I was making earlier, that, yeah, the reason that I think, like I was saying, pistol rounds were still quite popular with cops was the fact that there was less danger about shooting, like, an armed person in the street with it, or whatever, than there would be using rifles. I personally can't believe that, Black Metal, that, again, but if you're saying Full Metal Jacket, that's a Full Metal Jacket round. Like I'm saying, use a hollow point. That's what they're designed for. But what I'm saying is, the point is, on paper, and again, I know you can always find an ammo that will be different. If you have a full power rifle compared to a pistol round, the pistol is never going to penetrate as more. Penetrate for, let's say through layers of walling, layers of paper, whatever you want to do, soft body armor, because of the fact it's a pistol round. That's exactly why soft body armor is rated in, ratings where as the ratings go higher, they stop rifle rounds, pistol rounds lower tier. Yeah, again, if you look at Forgotten Weapons' channel, there's lots of weird fucking commercial guns that you can get. Again, because like most military guns, other than like the L85A1, for example, are generally made to a pretty good standard that, most of the testing's done. For the civilian market, you get a lot of the companies that are basically like, we can sell, more shit to people. Right, I see that you're just wasting everybody's time by the look of it. No, a rifle round is always going to penetrate more than a pistol round. I do not believe you when you start going, no, hollow point pistol rounds pen more than a rifle round. That's just completely false. So yeah, please don't waste everybody's time by saying the opposite of the truth. Is the one that's a jackhammer the one that's also a Marauders? I can't remember all these different guns now with weird names. Again, I know there was one that's, the Pancor jackhammer is the one that was actually, I think, had two versions, didn't it? I think that was the one where the military had one, and the, or like the military prototype, I think was a really good version or something that was magazine fed. That's not Darth Vader, that's an East German. Yeah, if I remember right, the so yeah, I think somebody was bringing this up, and I did look it up, and they were right that the Pancor jackhammer had a couple of variants, and there was a really cool military one that was mag fed, that would have been amazing. But there was also like a civilian one that had a really weird like tube. I think was it a tube loading system. I can't remember. And the yeah, the G11 was also really complicated. Again, I like the G11 a lot, but there's kind of a reason. It was, again, most countries that design a gun that's nothing like everybody else's gun, they don't go into service because it probably means there's going to be a lot of problems. Again, I don't know if you'd even get a G11 working today. Like I said, I know they work, but what I mean is, past... And again, you've got the weird thing at the moment where even though you're meant to have standard NATO ammunitions, quite a few of the NATO countries are now delving into just using weird fucking ammunition that's not even NATO standards. For real, outside of things like the rebreathers, because some of their rebreathers, again, that aren't technically gas masks, were like better built than any of their stuff. Probably the PBF. Now, the weird thing of the PBF is obviously take away the cheek filter bit of it, but the PBF actually has an oral nasal cup in it, where basically every other Soviet mask didn't. Therefore, I'd say it was more advanced. Again, the problem with guns in trial things is you will always get guns where during the trials that are cool, but then, there's probably lots of reasons. Again, don't forget, in real life, there's costs behind everything. See ya, hype. But But yeah, in real life, quite often there will be a thing where you'll be doing trials for something, and as good as it might be, there's probably somebody who then looks at a budget and says, yes, but to replace everything we currently have in service will cost X amount of money. We don't have that much money, so we're just going to keep using whatever we currently have. That's generally why in most countries that happens. Yeah, and that was the thing, Zodius, if I'm saying your name right, is that, yeah, the G11 is really cool, but again, it's a weird German fucking clockwork gun, isn't it? Where it's one of those things that, yeah, there's probably loads of fucking issues with the logistics of handing those out. Because I know there's been guns that have been way less complicated that have had, you know, like field use that then starts breaking. What about Humvees being destroyed? I mean, Humvees would get destroyed in a war. They're either an unarmored or a lightly armored vehicle. And also, again, with a roadside bomb IED sort of thing, a Humvee's not going to stand up towards that. I saw somebody had reposted a video from Iraq, I think it was, of Bradley being destroyed by a roadside bomb, and it was a fucking huge roadside bomb because it literally just evaporated a Bradley. Oh, what you mean? Because loads got destroyed, they could replace them. Yeah, but I don't think you appreciate how many Humvees and Abrams and Bradleys the US has. That's why there's still a fucking desert full of them. Again, it's like the Soviet tank storage yards, except the stuff in the American storage yards is actually kept to a like not shit condition. Again, if you were going to get rid of them, it would be a better thing to donate them to somewhere like Ukraine, so you can then waste Russian vehicles where they're being used against those. Oh, apparently Russia is now getting quite low on T-62s, which is kind of interesting. But apparently, I think the people who pay to actually see the satellite images of the Russian tank graveyards, the T-62 stores are fucking emptying out now. Oh yeah, but a mine-resistant vehicle has specifically got a hole that makes the blast do that, not hit it directly up on the flat surface. But yeah, again, if an explosion is way too big, it's just going to evaporate the vehicle regardless. You know, it's like if you see some, because I think some of the IEDs were like huge loads of artillery shells just like daisy linked together, weren't they? Like they weren't just like a bit of C4 or something, or like, you know, like one anti-tank mine. They were essentially shitloads of shells that were all put together and then on one fuse. Anyway, I have been on nearly an hour, so but yeah, like I said, I probably won't be on tomorrow because I've got a fair bit on tomorrow, so I don't want to say I'll be on at a set time and then not be on. Friday, I hopefully will get time. Oh, actually, no, saying that, Friday, I've got 2 separate things on in the day, and annoyingly, even though I thought I'd have some spare time, the duty one, it's the duty patch from Stalker. So I was playing Stalker the other day. It's one of the factions in Stalker, because people actually do quite decent quality patches for the Stalker factions that you can buy for like airsofters, paintballers, that sort of stuff. So that is a proper decent fabric one. That's not just like a 2D image on there. That is like one of those like machine sewn patches. I saw Trump's shitty military parade, if you're on about that one, where the soldiers did look like they didn't want to be there and just sort of shuffled along. I can have a parade like Putin and Xi. Nobody will do a parade like me. My birthday parade is shit. Why did they do a shit parade for my birthday? Is what in Russia? Damaging the roads. Have to pay for new roads. That's where your money's going, new roads. No, it's Stalker. So Stalker's Ukrainian, and it's again one of the factions in the game. So yeah, technically the font on there saying duty would be it. I think in Russian. I don't know if duty is the same word in Russian or Ukrainian, but when Shadow of Chernobyl came out, everything was technically Russian in the original release. Stalker 2, everything's Ukrainian because obviously, as you're probably aware, they don't like each other very much now. So there's kind of a cultural shift that went on between all that sort of stuff. Have I put that on skew with now? There we go. Anyway, like I said, I'll be off. Right, have a good day, everybody. Like I said, don't know if I'll get a chance to do a stream tomorrow or Friday at all. If I do, it might be at a random fucking time when I've got a bit of spare time. But next week, I should have quite a lot of time to do videos and streams. Because, you know, I've got some time off work booked off. And, you know, I've got one of those weeks where there shouldn't be much going on. So... I've done a video putting a P100 filter or P95, whatever, on the top of it. You can breathe through it, but there's a lot of breathing resistance. That's an MM1, so Mike 1. It was the Soviet tank mask for most of the Cold War. So it's specifically a mask that's designed so you can use tank optics with it. Like, you can't see it from the mannequin here, but it's only really a front face mask. It's very limited at the sides and the top because it was designed that a tanker's, you know, like helmet, leather cap thing with the comms equipment would go over it like that. So it was kind of like an early example of one of the masks designed to work with comms and optics and stuff like that. So yeah, if you see pictures of those masks, it's normally always vehicle crewmen that have them on. They probably ended up mass producing them for other uses as well, but it was specifically a crewman's mask. Whereas, like, standard infantry had different masks. But yeah, Mike 1 is, so MM1. And again, it used to be annoyingly one of those masks. When I got that one, you could get them dirt cheap. Now they're silly money. Yeah, although it came before them, because you can't necessarily see from there. The eyepieces are the same style ones as the Shum 41, like GP5 sort of thing. It's just that with that mask, they're on the face piece that makes them sit rigid, looking forwards. Whereas obviously the other Soviet masks, you know, they're like more at a 45-degree angle to give you a better field of view. But yeah, with that one, they basically are on a completely flat front axis. So, you know, you can put binoculars, yeah, like the Shums, directly up to your eyes. But yeah, it's that concept, but depends on what the Soviet technology was. As much as we like to laugh at a lot of the Russian stuff in Ukraine, a lot of the Soviet stuff in the Cold War was genuinely all right for when it came out. Again, it was the you know, it was the issue of lots of things just being outspent by America and some of the other countries. That the Soviets would make something all right for the time it came out. America would make something way better a couple of years later for a lot more money, and then the Soviets would blow their economy. And that's, again, part of what collapsed the USSR, was the Soviets would keep trying to outspend the Americans designing new technology, but they couldn't do it. German technology was logistically awful, though, in World War II. I agree with you, a lot of it is fucking cool. The problem with German World War II technology is they couldn't build it to a good scale. Yeah, and their economy is now falling apart, JJ. If you haven't seen recently, apparently Putin is really starting to flip out and blame people now. Yeah. Like I said, in terms of military tech, yes, Ukraine uses a lot of it. And again, if the soldiers are using it well, a lot of the gear isn't necessarily bad. The problem is that if you're just charging stuff into a minefield, it's never going to work well, no matter if it's Western equipment or like Russian equipment, Soviet equipment. But yeah, at least with Putin now, apparently he did a speech the other day where he was completely going, I'm not to fault, you know, like having one of those like downfall style things right at the end. And their economy is apparently completely shitting the bed to everybody in the world looking into it now. Is like, yeah, their economy is totally fucked. Because even some of the sanction busting companies are now, like apparently operating at a loss now. So hopefully Monkey might get dealt with relatively soon, unless people die. I think, JJ, like I said, it's not necessarily that it's going to be a good person that's going to kill him. I think it's going to be mostly a case of the person that coups him just knows that they're going to have more yachts and whatever else if they snuff him out. So he's going to either be put in handcuffs and handed over to go to The Hague, or he's going to be, just shot in the head or whatever, drowned in a toilet. And then somebody will say, I'll pull my troops out of Ukraine if I can have all of my assets back, please. Some nice yachts and whatever. And then most Western countries are going to be like, yeah, whatever. Oh, look, it's a good time for me going off anyway, because it looks like we've got some of those weird spamming channels all coming on at the moment. Yeah, like I was saying, JJ, I think that's going to be inevitably, if a smart person coups him, what they're actually going to do. Because they know that basically, they're, once the, even if technically, because I think a lot of the people that might kill him aren't so, like, old-fashioned imperialist, like the Russia bigot on map kind of thing. Whereas, like I was saying, I think somebody that coups him is probably going to be sensible in the sense that they understand the real situation, that, they're not going to be a nice person. They're not going to want to pull out of Ukraine because, I want to stop the killing and the bloodshed. It's because they can say, look, this is all Putin's fault. They can get shitloads of riches and whatever, and then say, let's just blame this all on Putin. We'll have some other people just, actors, like sort of Nuremberg trials fodder, whatever you want to call it, criminal sort of court trials, and then I'll inherit everything, okay? And that's I think how it will end up playing out. They're not going to be nice people that replace Putin, but they might be people that are sensible enough to just enjoy the riches they have rather than just randomly trying to invade countries. Yeah, get money from the West as well as all their assets being unfrozen, because some of the asset frozen money is quite insane, the sheer amounts of it. Yeah, and yeah, like we said, probably just some of the countries might say, look, here's just a shitload of money if you cooperate with us. Anyway, I'll be off now. So yeah, we've had some weird people on this stream, a load of spammers right at the end. Oh, and there's another one. Again, I don't necessarily know why they do that, because it's not like it's even distracting the stream very well. But, and we had that guy that was trying to argue pistol rounds penetrate further than rifle rounds, which breaks all the rules of physics and everything documented about pistol and rifle rounds. So like I said, eventually I realized I wasn't arguing somebody that was going to see sense. It was just somebody talking out their ass. Assuming it wasn't somebody like one of these guys that was just trying to say shit for the sake of being annoying and sort of diverting conversation. But I will ask, all of you to find a video where 7.62 NATO rounds pen less than a 9mm pistol round, because I don't think you're ever going to. I'm not deleting yours because you're not spamming it. But anyway, I'm off. Like I said, I was going to be off a few minutes ago, but again, we ended up talking about Putin and hopefully being drowned in the toilet. Anyway, yes, I will be off. Oh yeah, I need to end it on my phone, don't I? Because I didn't start the stream. But like I said, next couple of days, don't know if I'll have any chance to do a stream or not. Depends on if things go, if things run like clockwork. On the next couple of days, I might have chances to do streams. If I have one of those typical days where things that are meant to happen at certain times of day end up getting delayed, and all that sort of shit, then I probably won't get a chance to do a stream because there won't be any free time around all the random crap I'm doing. Anyway, see you all. Have a good day, good evening, whatever. Goodbye.